As long as we don't sink in the quicksand. The amazing quicksand which I've heard doesn't exist in any sand in the desert in real life. I mean, I know that quicksand exists, but usually that's like in swamp areas. I'm not sure if quicksand actually exists in a desert. And if it does, well, I don't know if it's in like big spirally whirlpools like this. Although it only makes sense to try to liken quicksand with regular sand, with desert sand, in the context of video games, because anytime you try to theme an area, try to think of everything that relates to the ideas of that area. So everything with sand in the name, just throw that in. Heck, we should have a Zelda dungeon about sandwiches. Okay, well that did not work out. Should have probably been a little bit further back. Oh great, I start back at the beginning of the room. Well, this spontaneous run of the Arbiter's Ground is going great so far. In general, I don't like this dungeon as much as others because I feel like it's simpler. There's not as much to explore. It's kind of like when Miyamoto said that one of the games that he was least proud of was The Legend of Zelda 2, because it didn't really, it wasn't really expanded upon its blueprint days, or however you would refer to the planning period behind the game. Like, it didn't go beyond what they originally had in mind for it. They didn't improvise all that many new ideas like they would with other games. So it was pretty much just what it was on paper. And I can understand that being disappointing from a developer perspective. And that's kind of what this dungeon feels like to me. It doesn't feel like anything more than what it probably was on paper. Whereas the other dungeons seem to be more expanded upon, somehow. It's hard to explain. Like I said earlier about this game usually going out of its way to do more than it needs to, this dungeon feels like it does exactly what it needs to and not anything else. Which for some people might make it a good dungeon. Or like an especially good dungeon because none of it is wasted, but I don't know. Okay, I have a pretty good amount of lantern oil. That was the worst said sentence. I have pretty good amount of lantern oil. I'm a lantern for saying that. Another thing about this dungeon is just all these little skeletons. Like, the skeletons are not a very creative enemy design to begin with, and it's just kind of irritating having to fight a whole bunch of them. Even though it is kind of satisfying to see them all, like, destroyed with a single swipe of the sword. It's also just kind of, eh. They're like pests. They're like mosquitoes. Which, I'm sure that I've had a lot of those bite me lately because I've been doing a lot of yard work. In the process of moving, we've had to do a lot of cleaning up with our house, and we have a fence in our backyard, and creatures have crawled out from behind the fence before, under the fence, and gotten in. I don't know what creatures exactly, but to hopefully prevent some of that, I had to put all the bricks that we had in a big pile in our yard just under all the different sections of fence. And it took longer than it should have, probably because I didn't decide to use the wheelbarrow. I just tried to take bricks to their individual logical locations by like 4 or 5 at a time in my arms. And I guess I get good exercise that way. That was another suggestion that I researched on how to have a more alert mind, is just exercising more, and exercising is something that I should do more of, and I just always find excuses not to, because I'm stupid. And this guy is definitely not as threatening as he appears. Because, good gracious, the Poes in this dungeon are really scary looking, and even their death animation is scary. But yep, like the Forest Temple before it, but not the Forest Temple in this game, we have to find 4 Poes and exorcise them, I guess. Not exercise, exorcise. And they light these flames. Also, we get to forget another smell and replace it with a new smell. Yeah, let's just forget the scent of our beloved and learn the Poe scent. Clearly a much more attractive smell. And a smell that, despite being for Poes, becomes obsolete after this dungeon, I believe. Like, you can't just sniff out Poes. Well, I think you can't sniff out Poes just anywhere in the overworld. Could be wrong about that, though. I've kind of forgotten. No? No, I'm pretty sure... Yeah, I'm pretty sure you can't. Because this smell eventually gets replaced with another smell that I believe is the smell for the rest of the game. And that smell is... unpleasant, probably. I mean... we don't have smell-o-vision like they do in Futurama, but... it's a good thing, too. That's something that I've thought about lately, is how good it is that all the senses that video game characters have, we don't have while playing. Because, sure, it would make for a more immersive experience, but part of the reason that it's good to not have a fully immersive experience is because you want games to be like an escapist thing. Not always, of course. Some games aren't meant to be an escapist experience. Kind of like some movies are meant to be realistic and highlight what horrors there are in the world, or just what joys there are in the world. But I'm really glad that, you know, Conker's Bad Fur Day doesn't have smell-o-vision for the whole poop world. That's something that I wouldn't want to have an immersive experience with. Okay, I think I want to put this away. I don't know if I really need the iron boots. Do I even need to pull this at all? Maybe I don't. I guess I probably did pull it, and that's just what led to this. Okay. I'm pretty sure I want to be on the top first. I'm not positive. It's been a while since I've played this dungeon. Alright, this is not where I was supposed to go first. I guess it makes sense that I opened the lower floor and that's where I'm supposed to go, but... meh. Another thing that I've thought about lately is... well, I was watching a stream lately where someone was talking about the game Life is Strange, and talking about how it's a terrible game worth hating. And I didn't have the same impression from Life is Strange. I can understand why people would hate it, because it does have a lot of unnatural-sounding dialogue, and the ending kind of sucks. I'm not going to spoil it for the people who don't know, but... I got a red rupee! We're just getting all sorts of colored rupees today. And I'm full on rupees, so it doesn't matter what I get. Probably should have spent the money on these rupees somewhere, but... oh well, we're just gonna have a few chests that we can't open, I suppose. Wait a minute, I'm supposed to do this. But yeah, Life is Strange to me. I didn't actually play it myself, I just watched Cry play it. And I found it to be an interesting, engaging experience, even though I thought the ending sucked, and on one hand, the whole game kind of builds up to the ending, so the fact that it's... well, not the fact that it sucks, but the idea that it's a disappointment kind of lends the whole game to seem like it had no purpose. But on the other hand, I feel like the ending... like, something with a crummy ending shouldn't take away from the entire experience of something. I feel like... well, it's kind of like what they say about the journey meaning more than the destination. That's kind of how I feel about a lot of games. I don't see why the ending has to determine whether something is good or bad. even if the ending is supposedly the whole point, because the experience getting there is still meaningful in some way. And that's kind of... That's my impression of Life is Strange. I found it to be an interesting, flawed experience with a bad finish. And that's all I can really say about it without spoiling things. So, for anyone who's interested in the story, I would recommend it for most of it, but not all of it. Even though you still kind of have to... If you watch 4 episodes of it, you kind of have to watch the 5th episode anyways. This is where I just came from. No, this is where I just came from. I'm being dumb. Of course, another thing about the whole argument of the journey meaning more than the destination, or the journey maybe just being as important as the destination. That's a lot of why I think that games and movies, and sometimes just stories in general, don't need sequels. Why it's better to just leave them without another conclusion. Because it's better to be anticipating of something sometimes than it is to actually get the answer to the questions that you have. Because the anticipation of the answer to a question is usually more exciting than the answer itself. Unless that answer has been specifically planned out. If that makes any sense. Like, well, Five Nights at Freddy's is an example. I mean, I feel like Five Nights at Freddy's should have ended with the first game, personally. And I know that a lot of people would disagree. But I feel like, over time, the series tried to explain things that didn't need explaining, and just the idea that those mysteries were unsolved was more exciting than actually having those mysteries solved. Maybe that's part of the reason that Zelda will never end, is because it always brings about new questions instead of trying to answer every question that it already has. Those are kind of the best stories, the ones that don't have complete answers. Well, I kind of want to say that I'm not supposed to be here at all. But what is that over there? This is part of the reason that I don't like this dungeon, is because it just confuses me. I can't look foolish in front of my audience, even though I keep having a dry throat that interrupts me mid-word and mid-sentence. I have water here, I should just drink it. Maybe the dryness of this desert is just getting to me. And the creakiness of my chair. I feel like if I tried to launch my way over to that with the claw shot, it would be sequence breaking, and it isn't actually what I'm supposed to do. I'm still gonna try it anyway, because I'm dumb. Yeah, that didn't work out so well. Death by sand. Death by sandwiches bad. Bernie sandwiches. Clearly this key is supposed to go somewhere. I just don't know where. And I'm sure it's incredibly obvious. Okay, is it just supposed to go... Yeah, okay, it's just up here again. The door that I forgot has a purpose. Alright. Moving forward in the dungeon. Ignore me being a stoop. I'm stooping to such lows here that I've never known before. I vaguely remember this room. I mean, not that there's much that's notable about this room that we haven't already seen. I don't need to be collecting rupees. What just hurt me? Oh yeah, this is that room. The room with the spiky spikes. That spike everywhere. Like a volleyball, except not like a volleyball. That's a very different kind of spike. And also not like the small purple dinosaur dragon, whatever he is, in My Little Pony. Friendship is Magic. And possibly also the original, but I have no idea. I've barely watched any of either. So I have no idea if the original has a spike or not. All I know is that he is tiny, and he's like the only male character. Alright. Now we get to pull up a chandelier. A very large chandelier, just by yanking on a chain. Are you pulling my chain here with how heavy this is and how we're still able to pull it? Alright, can I pull this back further if I have the iron boots? No, it doesn't look like it. So, we're just supposed to make a run for it. Let's stand in the middle here, just to be on the perfectly safe side. Oh, I guess I was supposed to run past it because now I can't get out. Maybe I can. This looks fine. Kind of like that moment in the movie Aladdin, as if I had to preface it by saying the movie Aladdin, as if by saying Aladdin I would have meant anything else. Just thinking about the moment whenever he strategically lines himself up with the window of that big tower and he doesn't get squashed. Squashed being a very lighthearted, kid-friendly way of saying he would have been completely compacted into a pancake of blood and guts. And another re-dead. The re-deads in this game, for some reason, they just aren't as scary to me in this game as they are in other Zelda games. They're every bit as, what's the word, like hindering. With the way they screech at you and the way that you freeze and all that stuff. Like, their mechanics are the same. But I find them a lot scarier in Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, and Wind Waker. Maybe because in Wind Waker they seem so much more out of place. Because that game is so cartoony and everything, and then all of a sudden... just this dying elephant noise. It's a noise that I cannot mimic, but... it's like... I don't know, a bunch of weasels getting caught in a garbage grinder. Is basically what that noise is. Oh, and another re-dead, yeah. This is another reason that I don't like this dungeon. I mean, I do like it, but I don't like it. Just compared to other dungeons, it feels like this is kind of lazy dungeon design. Just put a whole bunch of tiny enemies and an enemy that freezes you in a big corridor. Okay, 2 enemies that freeze you in a big corridor. And it's just the perfect storm for getting hurt without having a way to avoid it. It's just, hey, this is the place where you can take damage for a while, and whoop-de-doo. Like, maybe it's not lazy, maybe it's strategic, but still, it just feels off to me. Like there could have been something more to that than just spamming your sword against a spam of enemies. Why did I turn human? John Baptiste and stay human, everybody. Except really the whole scheme here is to stay wolf. Okay, that's what I want. Whenever you do your glowy glows, that's when I want to eat you. Whenever you suddenly turn corporeal after being a non-corporeal being. You finally managed. The mad dummy became so mad that the spirit fused with the dummy and became a corporeal being. Okay, now, can I just eat this soul, yank it out of your chest? That's exactly what I wanted. Is it so much to ask to yank your soul out of your body with my teeth? Apparently it is. Okay. I don't think I need to turn human to open doors. Yep, Midna and her magical big arm do that for me. And then this room is perfectly clean. It's a glistening, nice room with no bugs in it, no siree. Absolutely no bugs in it whatsoever. No bugs or rodents or anything of that sort, except, yes, there is. I guess they're rodents, they're not bugs, but might as well be bugs, because they are pests. They just all of a sudden appear once we get the key. And hello, camera? Work with me here? Lakitu, do you mind not getting stuck in the wall? Kind of a pointless room, but I sort of enjoy it. That's 3 torches down. I don't remember if there are any heart pieces in this dungeon. Besides the heart container at the end, I don't think there's much extra to this dungeon. Right, this looks like a time to turn human. Or not. This is a really wolf-designed dungeon, I guess. And you can even push this with... Well, okay, I guess... No? Yeah? Yeah, this is just a dungeon that's designed to be mostly wolf, I guess. That's something I hadn't really thought about before, but... as far as I know, we can pull this as a wolf. We can push blocks as a wolf. A lot of the enemies that we fight pretty much have to be fought with a wolf. Yeah, this is a wolf dungeon. Which is something that I'd never really thought about before, because usually I play this dungeon with the idea of beating it half human something. I shouldn't have done that. Should have had my sword already out, and then that would have gone a little bit better. Oh well. Sand, swallow me whole. Devour me like the unforgiving beast that you are. I'm just always afraid to run completely under the chandeliers because I think that they're going to fall faster than they do. But they are very slow-falling chandeliers, apparently. Alright, you know what? I'm not going to be a wolf this time. Ignoring everything that I said about this being a wolf dungeon. The controls got really wonky there for a moment. I was holding right and then Link was going up. And it was just like when Mario gets stuck on the side of a planet in Super Mario Galaxy. How weird that is. Somewhere around here is a hookshot place. Not a hookshot, but a claw shot. And I don't believe we've been down here yet. This is the same side of the room that we were just on, but I think it's a different place. Oh yeah, this is the other... yeah, okay. We were here earlier. Okay, so now we wait for it to fall over us. Go over here. Yeah, that's the puzzle. I just forgot the puzzle because I was too ahead of myself.